And this was, for a number of reasons, a very weird season. And it was a weird season for everybody because you're dealing with COVID and are we going to play? Are we not going to play? Cancellations. There's times where, 48 hours before kickoff around the country, we don't know if we're playing that day. Mm-hmm. So that's built in. That's everybody that kind of washes out with everybody else. The reason this season is particularly weird, or was weird for Michigan State, at least for me as a Spartan, someone that cares deeply about them, as you can probably guess from your surroundings here.
Great setup.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest, rewarding 2-win season in the history of college football, where you have that opening loss to Rutgers. It looks like it's going to be a shit show for however many games they end up playing. 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
No faith. I had my friends. I feel like I have to answer for Michigan State if anything goes wrong. Like, I have a lot of Michigan fan friends, and so my phone's just blowing up about how bad the Michigan game's going to be after that first opening loss to Rutgers. And you end up getting away from the season with 2 extremely enjoyable wins, huge double-digit underdogs to Michigan, your rival, and then Northwestern. I'm wondering, to what extent do you put value on those wins? I know a lot of people are saying it's a wash. It's year 0. That's Tara Stafford, a friend of mine who's been on the show too. She refuses to call it year 1. She got mad at me for even calling it year 1. It's year 0. But those results are not nothing. Is that not a tangible sign, those 2 wins collectively, of something in its infancy maybe, but still building something here?
Yeah, honestly, it's interesting because before the season, I wasn't sure what to make of them. I figured, and when Mel Tucker was at Colorado, he had a couple wins that probably shouldn't have gotten. I think that they kind of outperformed some games. I think they beat Arizona State in that first year, and I think there were some other games where they were competitive at least. So I figured, we could have that similar effect at Michigan State, even though I thought that this was going to be a rebuild and it's going to be a process. Then that Rutgers game came along. I was like, oh boy, this is going to be a rough season. 7 turnovers in that first game, which is kind of ridiculous. And for them to come back that next week, and I think 24-point underdogs in that next against Michigan, nobody expected them to win. I didn't expect them to win. And for them to come out with that sort of effort, the defensive line really controlled the line of scrimmage. I thought Antoine Simmons had one of his best games of his career against Michigan. I thought they really came to play, and Rocky Lombardi was just torching that Michigan defense over there. So that was a game where it's like, all right, what type of team is this going to be? And I know, it's still a rebuild. They still went 2-5, but the 2 wins that they did have, those wins are different than beating Rutgers. Would you rather have Northwestern and Michigan or Rutgers and Maryland as your 2 wins or something like that?
It's the most successful, enjoyable 2-win shitty season ever for that reason, those distinctions.
Exactly. So, and I think I remember asking Mel, hey, is there anything does this sort of show that you're making progress? I think that was after the Northwestern win. He's like, absolutely. I feel like guys are buying in. This year is all about building a culture. I know that's kind of a cliche, but he really believes in that. And I think his definition of culture is, he wants to make this roster as competitive as it can be. If you don't love football, if you're not willing to sweat it out and, put your whole life into this game, he doesn't want you on the team. That's kind of his mentality. So he wants guys that embrace competition, that embrace fighting for spots on the depth chart. And if you think that things are just going to get handed to you, that's just not how it's going to play out. So I think that's what this year was about. And if you can sprinkle in a couple of wins like Michigan, Northwestern, you got to feel pretty good about that, in my opinion. And I think it's fair to raise the expectations a little more as you go forward. But for year 1, under the circumstances, I think that's pretty solid.
Freaking idiot. Shouldn't even have a show.